to the 2025 Cybersecurity Training by OfficeSmithLLC. Our objective today is to get you updated on what's going on out there and how we can protect you and your company and your family. Because let's be honest, it doesn't just happen at work. So why should we care? Cybercrime is growing, not shrinking. We're on track for 23 trillion in the year of 2027. That's more than the double 2025 estimate of 10.5 trillion. So it's growing crazy. Nearly all the cyber insurance companies, they just pay the ransom. Cyber criminals actually prefer your company has cybersecurity insurance because it almost guarantees they're going to get paid. On average, employees in small businesses with less than 100 employees experience 3.5 times more phishing and other social engineering attacks than an employee of larger enterprises. According to CFO.com, the leading risk to business growth is cybersecurity. Let's take a look at that graphic that came from that. So here we have it. We can see here that 40% of the human-created hazards are cyber breaches or data leaks, destroying their company or inhibiting growth. And if we take a look, we can just kind of scan really quickly about what the other risks might be. Hopefully we're all in that 20%, but we don't get to choose that. All right, let's go ahead and jump on. This is perhaps one of the most terrifying screens that you could possibly see. And this is the screen that you would see if you were hit by RansomHub. Now, our clients have never been breached. So we pulled this actually off the web from someone who had this screen available to them. But what it does is it shows you what they say when you get hit by ransomware, which I think is just really interesting. So, you know, your company servers are locked and the data has been taken to our servers. This is serious. The good news, your server system and data will be restored by our decryption tool. For now, your data is secured and safely stored on our server. Nobody in the world is aware about the data leak from your company except for you and the RansomHub team. Okay? So, and then they dissuade you from going to the authorities, saying that it won't help and it may actually cause regulatory issues. And then, you know, basically say that nobody can help you and the only option you have is to pay, or else they're going to do their very best to make you bankrupt. So decryption and restoration. And the reality is that even if you do pay, and if you don't identify and fix the problem that caused this in the first place, chances are this will only be the first payment of many. Anyways, let's go ahead and jump on. I hope that none of you ever see that. And watching this video is the first step to making sure that doesn't happen. So there's a lot of different attacks that are out there, and they're always changing. But I find that this graphic, which we've used in prior years, is still a good collection. So phishing attack, basically almost all of the attacks that are going to come into your company are phishing attacks. They come in via email or you know, and try and trick your employees into opening something they shouldn't. Ransomware, the screen we just saw, you know, if you get infected by malware, you know, a USB or a website or one of those phishing emails tricks someone into letting something on, then it basically locks your entire computer network, hurts productivity, hurts your reputation. Horrible thing to happen. Denial of service attack, that's if you're cloud-based, you know, they're going to do everything they can to overburden your servers so that they can't respond. Man in the middle, that's where they pretend to be the website that you're trying to get to in order to harvest your information or edit some of the settings. SQL injection, that's something that we should be programming out these days. SQL injection is when you have a poorly programmed web application or something else. If you don't specifically try and catch errors that try and break out of the code in order to access the database server, then they can take over the database server, use it to run commands, and get into your network that way. Uh, Cross-site scripting. This is kind of scary stuff where Java or some other product has some issues with how things are run, and it allows you to gain access to a computer using the code on the web page. So that's a little bit scary stuff. Um, and then zero-day exploits. That's just a fancy name for saying, this is something that we know that hackers are currently using. DNS spoofing. The joke in IT circles is if there's a problem, it's DNS. DNS spoofing is when someone has put fake DNS entries into your DNS server, wherever that is, and it redirects you instead of because when we type in Amazon.com, we're not typing in the IP address or the computer address. We're typing in Amazon.com. The DNS is what looks up Amazon.com and tells your computer the IP address or the internet address for that particular website. And by telling it the wrong address, it allows it to redirect it to something where they can collect data. So let's get started by talking about phishing. Phishing is the most common attack by far. This year's estimates are 80 to 95% of all cyber attacks are phishing attacks. Spear phishing, it's about 50% of the successful phishing attacks, but only about 1% of the total attacks. And the scary thing about spear phishing is we're starting to see more of it. We've had so many data breaches, especially with some of the larger ones this year. Now the bad guys, they basically have your information unless you're not using specific tools like Delete Me or other information privacy services that they can tell who's in your company and craft those, especially with AI. Those phishing emails are becoming so much more convincing. Trending in phishing, QR codes. QR codes, the security filters that we have on email, they're pretty good now. And one of the ways that the bad guys have discovered that they can get around that is putting a QR code on the email that they send out, because most things can't scan those. Most security filters aren't scanning those, and so they get to the end user, and the end user, what do? You pull out your phone and you zap it, and it gets around all of those security features that are on our computers, our networks, because our phones generally don't have protection. As a matter of fact, about 1 in 6 phones is hacked already, and so that creates all sorts of issues. And one of the reasons why most security people are trying to convince people to stop using SMS numbers for multi-factor authentication. Anyways, the attacks increased since AI has been released in 2022, 4,151%. That's mind-boggling. That's 41 times more attacks now since 2022, since AI was released. One of the other things that we would always encourage is that you create a mail rule. Anytime there's an HTML attachment to anything sent in through your system, it should create a cybersecurity alert, because most of the time, if you have an HTML attachment coming in on your email, it's malicious. So, they love to impersonate places that we're already interacting with. And I've heard the figure that 30% of these phishing, that cyber attacks are coming from social sites. And then if we look at where the most common phishing attacks are coming from this year, it looks like LinkedIn, 52% of the attacks are from LinkedIn. 14% are from DHL, so shipping. Google, Microsoft, FedEx, WhatsApp, Amazon, and Mask. But almost half of the branded phishing emails are coming from LinkedIn. So we should be paying a little bit more attention and trying to be a little bit more careful. But those are the big names on where they're imitating in order to try and get these phishing emails past past us here. So most common attacks of phishing. So 91% of you know. So let's see. Name spoofing is one of the most common ways of performing phishing, right? So, if you look really carefully at a lot of the names, you can identify that it's not real. Like if you get a phishing email from Microsoft and it actually came from a Gmail address, you can be pretty darn sure that wasn't from Microsoft. And so let's take a look a little bit about how we can identify that. So if we take a look at this one, so they say that of the 91% of all phishing attacks that are name spoofing, 73.5 of them are an email sent as exact sender name impersonations. So this, let's assume, is his correct email address, and so in this particular case, it would be Steve Jobs at, and then the wrong company or the wrong extension here. So it seems like the bulk of them are there, right? And then similar name is 24%, where maybe they put in a typo, but it's basically the same thing. And then 2% is where they're getting a little bit more technical and they're using the actual, something very similar to the actual email address. Like they might do corp.apple.com or Apple, or use a different language than what we're familiar with. So the A might look slightly different, but it says Apple. Or in some cases, they look pretty much identical. So you get down to 2% where you're dealing with something like that. And then exact name spoofs. This is where, if they don't have their email security properly set up, or they've been compromised maybe on a web server, then it can actually be perfect. But that's only 0.5% of the time, or in situations like we'll discuss later. So if you just take a close look at the name of who actually sent the email, there's a good chance that you're going to stop 98% of phishing emails. So please, when you get an email and something doesn't smell right, or just make it part of your regular habit, take a look at those names. Make sure it passes the sniff test. Okay, so the 2025 frequently used subject lines in attacks are urgent account updates, password reset notifications, suspicious login activity alerts, delivery confirmation with a fake tracking link, invoice payment reminder, prize notification, important security updates, and then I love when I'm presenting this to people live to ask them what they've seen this year, because I find that super interesting and helpful. So one of the things that I would encourage everyone to do is when you have an attachment come in on an email, scanning it at virustotal.com. Now, obviously, you want to make sure that you type that in correctly. But this, let's see, safe page. This is a great training put together by Google, and I highly recommend that everybody take an opportunity to head out over to here and step through how to avoid being phished. And it talks about URLs and different things there. I'm not going to go into details. If you want to see more about that, I highly encourage you to jump back and do that. But VirusTotal, I love this tool. This is a tool that's also put out by or owned by Google. And this particular tool, it allows you to upload a file, and it will be scanned by something like 60 or 70 different virus scanners. And you have to be a little bit careful about what you upload, because the items that are submitted to VirusTotal are visible for security researchers So you might have other people looking at it. But if it's something that you're not sure what it is, I highly recommend you toss it in here, scan it. URLs, this is where you're getting a link to a website. If you drop the link in here, it'll search it. So those are the two of the ways that I double check that when I get an email that doesn't smell right. So you guys should be aware that those tools are there that you can use to help protect you. And the most important thing, pick up the phone call and call when you get a weird email, especially if you're a business and somebody wants you to pay someplace different than normal, or send information that's unusual. Call them, verify, because there's so many people getting hacked, and one of the biggest ways that businesses lose money is a type of phishing called business enterprise business email compromise, BEC, and it means basically that somebody managed to break into somebody else's email account and they use that to send to all of their contacts and carefully time things and set up special email rules so that only they get the responses from that particular person, and their objective is to steal your business's money and trick people into sending sending the money or information to them instead. Additional training, the additional training is available for anyone. We put it out on our website. We believe that anything that we can do to stop cyber criminals, we want to share with the world. And so you can see here we've put out our cybersecurity training. There's lots of great resources here. A lot of the things for phishing are going to be here as well. Safe page quiz. One of my favorite things that I love to do because it's so fun, even with my kids, is this one here, the PBS Cybersecurity Lab. It's a great online program, teaches you a lot about programming, password security, just the whole gambit. It's a great resource. So I highly recommend that one. Let's go ahead and jump back. All right. So let's talk about the things that are coming up that are new and noteworthy this year. We have phones, both apps. So apps on phones, you have to be careful. Both app stores are frequently reporting that they've got malware in the apps. So I encourage you, and I know it's not possible, but at least on adult phones, be sure, and people who have banking apps and things like that, make sure that you're only loading apps on those phones that you really need, or are very highly trusted. Because there's so many apps in both the iOS and Android store that are reported to have malware in them and hundreds or millions of downloads. So be careful. Your phones are probably undefended. My guess is that most of you who are watching this video don't have antivirus on your phone. And as a result, 1 in 6 mobile devices are infected. And that's an older statistic. It's probably higher than that now. So cell phones, apps that can scan. So this is kind of interesting, the thing that they've come out with. Now they have apps. When you give apps permissions when you add them to your phone. So one of the things that they can do now is they can scan all of your previous pictures. And what they're going to do is they're going to use optical character recognition, which is a fancy way to say that the computer's going to look for text in your photos, and it's going to look for any passwords it can find, and especially any Bitcoin wallet hashes. They love making millions off of people who didn't secure their wallet very effectively, or that they managed to get through an exchange. So this next thing is kind of interesting. It's probably not going to affect most of our clients because we're U.S. based, but the EU just signed into law a product liability law that treats software like other products, allowing customers to claim monetary damages without proving negligence. So software makers typically try and avoid that with that liability thing that says, we're not susceptible for anything that goes wrong, right? But in the EU, they're no longer allowed to disclaim software problems that they can show that they're just not allowed to disclaim that liability anymore. And unless they can show that defect wasn't discoverable at the time they released the software. So if there's a feature that doesn't work, or if there's a security flaw in the software that shouldn't have been there when it was released, you can sue them for it in the EU. Now there was a 24-month window. I'm not exactly sure when it was signed into law, but sometime over the next year, or year and a half, 2 years, we're going to start seeing software makers having to deal with claims on that, is my guess. So I would expect, for anyone listening, that we're going to see large software companies have a price increase as they do more to try and prevent this EU liability. And then this year, basically all the phone systems in the world were hacked. And we think it might be Chinese or North Korea or both, but what we do know is that it was bad. And some people are saying that it's cleaned up, but there are other very high-ranking people in cybersecurity in the U.S. government saying they're not fully convinced that we've got everybody out of it. But what that means to you and me is that basically, unless you're using a tool like Signal, where you've got end-to-end encryption on what's being said, there's a high probability that somebody could be listening to you. So if you're calling someone and giving a password over the phone or something like that, it's something that's really changed. Things are no longer as secure as they once were phone to phone. It's like everybody in the entire world has a wiretap on them now. And with the ability of the ability of computers to process just incredible amounts of data very quickly, how much of that is going to be accessible to everybody in the world is probably more than we really even want to know. It's probably disturbing. But be aware, if you want to have a private phone call, you can no longer assume that you're safe to do that. It's disturbing, but if you want a private phone call, you need to be using something like Signal that does have end-to-end encryption. So the other thing that happened this year was the biggest data breach ever, and not by a little bit, by like everything else added up, for the people in the United States. The National Public Data breach. So let's see if we can bring this up here real quick. So and pentester.com has been kind, and they've published what was discovered. Now I'm not going to enter my information here, but if you enter, because I don't want everybody who watches the video to see it, but if you enter your email and your first and last name and your birth year, it will search public data breaches, and it will tell you what of your information is currently available to hackers. And let me tell you, unless you're using a service like Delete Me or another privacy service, you're going to find that data to be disturbing. They know where you've lived, they know who you're related to, they know your phone numbers. It's just, it's stunning. And so that is one of the reasons that phishing is more challenging this year, because the data that they have is more than ever before. So let's go over a few other popular ones this year. The unpaid toll scam. They send you a text saying that you have unpaid tolls and you're going to get a fine, or your license is going to be revoked, and it's actually not legitimate. No, they're just trying to scam you there. PayPal. They figured out a way to use the PayPal system to send legitimate PayPal emails that say an address was added to your account. And then they tell you how to get in contact with them so that they can actually steal money. But in reality, what they're doing is adding you as, I think, a gift address, and the way that they type it in shows in a way that's very confusing when you receive the email, and it looks like it is an official PayPal notice that someone has breached your PayPal account. YouTube or Discord, there's a scam been going around for many years. I accidentally reported you as doing something that you shouldn't have been doing, or saying something that you shouldn't have been saying. And you just need to contact this other person and they'll clear it up. But the other person is actually in on the scam, and their objective is to take over your Discord account, your Steam account, your YouTube account, once you enter your credentials for them. So, watch out for that. Shopify, the fake order scam. Again, there's a problem with the Shopify system where they can send fake orders to people and freak them out. $3,000 AI invoice or something like that, or $5,000 worth of diapers. Whatever they think is going to elicit the largest response from people. And so they've got that going. Now this one is particularly scary. You know how you can get other applications access to your thing. Let's say if you have QuickBooks or something like that, you might actually have given QuickBooks permission to access your bank information in order to download that information. So this is similar. This guy created a app that looked just like Google Calendar. It had like a very similar name, very similar icon, and it requested basically access to everything on this person's Google account. And as soon as they gave them access, it allowed them the ability to do everything. Basically, it was a third-party access scam that allowed them to take over their Gmail account, and they don't even have to ever enter a password. Until you revoke that access that they've tricked you into giving them, they'll have full access on your account basically forever. And it can be difficult to track down and remove, especially if you're non-technical. So please be careful when you're getting Google Calendar. Same thing with Google Share Drives, or anything really. Make sure that the permissions that you're giving make sense, and that you're giving them to only the apps that you've requested that they send that to you. Anyways, another thing that's very popular is they'll show a stream, and they'll put a QR code and saying, hey, if you scan this QR code, then you can get free this, that, or the other, free skins if it's a gaming stream, free spatula if it's a cooking stream, or our a guide on how to overcome how to get skinny in 30 days. It's going to give you their special first 30 free or something like that. Anything. You really have to be careful with QR codes. They're just too dangerous to use now, I'd say, unless they come from a trusted source. So be very careful with those. And a lot of times now, in order to get around security filters, one of the things they're doing is they're using Google shared files to instead of an attachment. And you get to the actual shared file on the web, and you've managed to avoid some security filters. So be careful for any shared files that you get. Please be extra careful with those. The YouTube private video scam. So this is if you're using YouTube and somebody's trying to capture your credentials, they can send you something. It looks like a private video, and you've got to sign in, and their objective is to simply get your YouTube credentials. Browser update scams. So this is something where you go to a particular website, and they tell you that you need to update your browser in order to access what's there. So be very careful if you go to a website and they tell you to update your browsers. Browsers mostly update automatically now. You shouldn't ever have to manually update your browser. So anytime you see that, that should be a red alert that you need to back out of that site immediately and restart your computer safely. Okay, and Amazon review, QR cams code. So for people who are aware of the security thing, there's been a thing for years called a brushing scam, where people in Amazon will review their own product a bunch of times. Now it's really gone to level 3, where they'll review their own product and they'll mail it, but they'll use that national public data breach to look up, someone's address and name, and they'll send an Amazon package there, and it'll have whatever they're doing the reviews for in it. And they also throw in this sheet of paper. And this sheet of paper says something to the effect of, not sure why you're getting this? Scan this QR code to learn all about it. And if you scan that QR code, of course, you got to avoid those QR codes. It turns out to be one of those things where it is, a person who has built a specific website designed to capture your Amazon credentials or something else malicious. Anyways, this year we had the largest, I think, cryptocurrency scam ever pulled off by North Korea. They managed to breach, and the story is quite remarkable. If you have time and are interested in this sort of thing, certainly take a look at that 1.5 billion cryptocurrency scam that recently got perpetrated by North Korea. I'm sure you can Google Fuit and find it. But basically, they hacked everybody's phone there and their multi-factors, and they adjusted the code that was running so it went to the wrong crypto wallets, and they stole $1.5 billion, which is a number that most of us don't truly understand. Another thing that's super popular this year is CAPTCHAs. You know, we've long been accustomed to CAPTCHAs. They pop up. They want us to identify this, that, or the other. Now they're trying to trick people to run PowerShell scripts. So any CAPTCHA that you have that runs that tells you to press a key combination, like Windows key R or frankly anything, you should run the other way. Just don't even walk or leave, just run the other way, because Windows key R actually brings up a special window designed to run programs. And what they're doing is they're running a script, a program basically, that goes out to the web, downloads malware onto your computer, and installs it. So be very careful of CAPTCHAs, and frankly anything that asks you to run a program. I wouldn't run anything on my computer before I put it through VirusTotal and made sure that it is coming up with a clean bill of health. So another thing that's come out very big this year is we talked a little bit about it earlier. We're using device attachment, so tricking people with the Google Calendar. We're also seeing that in Microsoft Teams. They're trying to do it in Signal and WhatsApp. They're trying to get third-party approval for access into these things so that they can get those accounts. And if you want to Google Fuit, you want to Google Storm 2372, which is the name the good guys have given to the bad guys who are focusing on this type of attack. So we're also seeing a huge increase in vishing. Now vishing is just using voice for phishing. It's the use of phone calls. As a matter of fact, it's gotten so bad that we're starting to see Android and Google, they're starting to do countermeasures for this. And this is social attacks. Hey, we're calling to tell you, a virus has been detected on your computer, or we're the bank, check just bounced. I just need to verify your identity. So many different ways that you can use social. Kevin Mitnick, or I believe his name was, he was super effective at hacking everything, and he wasn't a particularly skilled coder. He wasn't a hacker per se. He was a social hacker. He could convince people. So you have to be careful of those phone calls that are coming in. Unfortunately, we just can't trust people like we used to be able to. Sysinternals, which is a huge IT tool that's been used by sysadmins for years, was found to be vulnerable to hacking. And Microsoft has decided that at last check that they weren't going to fix that vulnerability. So if you are using sysinternals, please make sure that you remove it after you finish using it, because it does provide another attack surface now. So another thing that's super popular is the click-to-fix malware. So you ever you ever have a problem on your computer, and you Google a solution, up comes this web page and it says, this is your problem, just click here and it will automatically fix it. Well, now what you're downloading isn't actually a fix for a computer, it's malware. And so you have to be super careful that you are using the correct websites, or if you're not comfortable with tech, just have somebody else do that for you, so that that problem gets fixed in a safe way. And deepfakes. Now, deepfakes are stunning, and they're only getting better. Now, I created a very short deepfake to kind of show people, what can be done. Now, I'm a cheapskate, and so I didn't use any paid services to do this. But let me show you what we have here. All right, let's see here.
OfficeSmithLLC, the best IT company it is. If need technology help, their support seek you should.
All right, we appreciate all that endorsement from the deepfake, but hopefully that gives you an idea of just what can be done. And since that was the free one, you can only imagine how much more effective those deepfakes are for the people who are paying and using the higher end stuff. So I want to tell you this story about a friend I have, one of my clients, and he decommissioned his phone. He upgraded his phone, something we all do all the time, right? And when he decommissioned his phone, he was assured that they were going to reset his phone for him. But guess what? They never did. And later on, his email account was having problems. It was being compromised. And the reason was that whoever received his phone bought it as what would you call that? A refurbished phone. They never reset his phone, and so they had access to his email. And it was some country that wasn't a tier one country, and he started getting all these, and he couldn't figure out. He had multi-factor authentication. He had all the different things on there, and yet he was still getting compromised. And so, the key learning for this is that if you are upgrading your phone, absolutely make sure that that phone is reset before it goes off, so that you don't have a similar experience yourself. So how do we protect ourselves? This is a huge industry and doubling in the next 2 years, cybercrime that is, and it's only getting more and more complex, more and more convincing. How do we protect ourselves from this sort of attack? Our businesses, our livelihoods. How do we keep our companies and our families safe? And so I'd say, even if we're doing all the things we should be doing, we're patching our software, we're being careful, we're making sure that we've got up to date antivirus or counter security filters, all those things. The problem that we have is we know in the security circles, the guys defending you, we know that there are problems with the software that we're using, with the computers that we're using. There have been, in the last 2 or 3 years, there have been 2 or 3 huge security issues that have been discovered that have been out there for over a decade. And so I look at those and I say, I'm doing everything I need to be doing. I'm protecting in all the right ways for my clients. However, even if I'm doing everything right, the software that we're using still isn't providing the protection from the cyber criminals. And so we really need some sort of second layer of defense nowadays. Your business should have an MDR, should have some sort of managed defense that will monitor for cyber criminal type movements and identify them and isolate or take the appropriate action to cancel the access to the rest of the computer network as soon as that's detected. So I highly recommend that. And because we have so many new fileless attacks, right? So attacks that just sit in the memory of the computer, don't ever get written on a disk anywhere. I think it's also super important that you should be rebooting your computer at least once a week, so that any of the that's gotten through gets flushed out with the reboot. And the sad thing is that that's not only on our computers, but you also need to be careful. A lot of the home routers that we have, those never get updated a lot of the time. You need to, I, I personally at my house I use a business class router because I have seen the studies on how well the residential routers defend people, and it's well, it's horrible. Frankly, it's horrible. They don't do a good job. Even if there's a security flaw in their product and they know it, there's a good chance that they're not even going to update the BIOS. And even if they update the BIOS available for people, the number of people who are actually ever going to update those is basically nothing. Now, the EU's come out with some amazing laws that should help us prevent that in the future, but you know, we'll see how that works. I'm really hopeful that at some point the home routers will be secure based on those changes. So yeah, if you're interested in that, you could Google the new law that they've got for home routers in the EU, and I assume that that's going to roll out to the whole world at the same time, because if you have to be in compliance for EU, why not send it out to all your customers? It's just a good thing. Things like automatic firmware updates, all these different things that'll help make those so much more secure. Not allowing web-facing access for routers, great stuff. Anyways, let's go ahead and move on to this slide here. Phishing training, phishing training, and reporting. I think it's essential nowadays. This is a constantly evolving war between the guys like us who defend you and the guys who are attacking you, trying to destroy your business. Phishing training is something that's going to keep your company safe, and you should have that going on. Just to identify, sadly, I've seen this enough that there's some people who, no matter how many times they get caught, no matter how many times they go through the training, they just never seem to get it, and unfortunately, they're a liability to your company from a security perspective. I think that we're going to see the people who are constantly failing that type of cybersecurity training in the future not be given the opportunity to work within the network like we're seeing. I think that they're going to end up doing something where that particular weakness isn't going to affect them or others as effective as much. And sadly, that in their personal life, that same thing's happening. And so they're at high risk of identity theft and somebody stealing their money because they're not being careful. You have to be careful now. And I hate it too. But, I occasionally tell people, I wish everyone was honest. I wish we didn't have criminals. Do you know how much time we would save if we didn't have to deal with all the security on the locks on our house, the locks on our car? How many people get locked out of their car? How many people get locked out of their house? How much productivity is lost because we have to deal with security? Unfortunately, it's a reality, and you have to deal with it. You have to understand it to work effectively in this workplace that we live in now. So. Dealing with pop-up browser attacks. So pop-up browser attacks are those things. They say Chrome at the top, and then they say you've got a virus, or we've detected, or you won a prize. All these different types of attacks that they have. And I would just recommend disabling notifications on your browser. Some people really love their Facebook notifications, so they don't want to do that. But if you're non-technical and you have somebody technical, you really should have them just disable your browser notifications entirely if you can tolerate that, because so many different ways to get you with that. Social engineering attacks, we've talked a little bit about that. So they're attacking us with the phone, they're texting us, they're mailing us Amazon packages, even in person. Somebody, claiming to be a job applicant may come into your place and say, "Oh no, I spilled coffee on my thing. I really need someone to print this resume. Can you just toss this USB in and print me another copy of my resume real quick?" That USB could be malware that executes automatically as soon as it's put into your computer. I not too long ago, we also do some accounting work, and I had plugged in some I'd plugged in a Lacert USB that came in the mail, and the first thing it did was pop up a Lacert error, a Lacert program, and it was super alarming to me because I knew that I hadn't executed a program, and it was a real wake up for me that I need to be more careful what I put into my computer, because as soon as you insert a USB in your computer, it can be set up so that it's going to run a program without any interaction, and it's going to be lightning fast. You got to be careful about what you plug in. So, Mobile device storage encryption, or MDM. We anything that's a laptop, that's a phone, we really need to have encryption on those devices, and an MDM, a mobile device management, so that we can remotely wipe that device if it gets into the hands of someone who shouldn't have it. Everyone nowadays should be using a password manager. And no, I'm not talking about Excel. I'm talking about LastPass, First Password, Bitwarden. There's a ton of them out there, and we personally recommend Bitwarden. We think it's a great product. We're very happy with it. We would recommend staying away from LastPass because they've been breached by security incident after security incident. And so, other than that, according to your own interests, but we recommend Bitwarden. We recommend against LastPass at this point. Geofencing. You should be setting up geofencing on any business router, or frankly even personal routers if you can. And geofencing is going to prevent certain countries that have IP addresses in their country from being able to access you. So, for instance, we're going to geofence a lot of countries that we're never going to interact with, right? So, we're over in the United States, and say we're in a company that only deals locally. We're going to block off basically anything not in North America, and that means that all of those attacks coming from all over the world, they just bounce off our router because our router says, you're not from North America. So it's a fantastic tool. You guys should be using it. Network segmentation. This is another fantastic tool to try and reduce your risk. Printers historically are just security nightmares. They're horrible. They don't do. Historically, they've been horrible. Hopefully, they're getting better. But network segmentation allows you to have one network for your phone system, one network for printers, one network for each department. And what that does is it reduces the risk of spread and damage should any event occur. Physical asset security and disposal. A lot of people forget, just like that phone event that happened to one of my clients, we have a ton of information on all the computers that we get rid of. I've been asked to use a third-party service, and the problem that I have with using a third-party service for disposal is that some of them don't do the job that they're supposed to do. They'll say that they wiped it, but they didn't. And as a result, if you buy some of these hard drives that are available, refurbished hard drives, you'll find data on them, and a disturbing amount of data. And it could be, it could be very sensitive data for your company. So it's very important that you are working with someone you trust to make sure that they're wiping your devices when those are given to them for disposal. And if you have a employee that leaves, you need to recover those electronic assets, those laptops, those phones. Make sure that they're appropriately wiped so that you don't have a problem. I think it's great you're watching this security training. We ourselves do over 2 hours of security training a week to make sure that we're on top of what's out there. And we believe that you should have some sort of continuous security training. And hopefully that for your end users, that's going to be part of your phishing training. But I would assume that you'd want to do more for your IT staff. I've already mentioned the business grade routers and infrastructure and the EU law associated with it. I highly recommend pen testing any web applications that your company uses. And pen testing is penetration testing, and it just means that someone tries to hack it, someone paid, or someone automated. And there's lots of services out there. You can get pen testing on your web apps for about $100 if you're happy with just automated pen testing, and that'll still catch a bunch of stuff. So you should be pen testing any web-based applications to make sure that the data that's in them isn't vulnerable. Another thing I just thought that I would mention for you guys is that the grc.com has a tool called Shields Up. And what that does is if you run that on your business, wherever you do your stuff, right? It will tell you what vulnerabilities you have currently at your location. It will tell you, what a hacker would see if they were trying to hack you. So it is a great tool if you want to have a free check on how good your router is doing, see what vulnerabilities you may have at home or at work, and give you a chance to check things out a little bit for. So those are just some of the things that every company, every house is different, and has, just like other people in financial situations, have different levels of risk tolerance, and security, sadly, is frequently a sliding scale between convenience and security. And so, discussing those threats and mitigation strategies, and so I would encourage you to consider what level of filter is best for you. What level of security is best for your company? And I highly encourage you to get in contact with a company like OfficeSmithLLC that can provide you good advice on the risks that you're facing with the choices that you make, so that you can make a good, informed decision. And hopefully, that's a secure decision. And that's all we have for you today. We hope that you enjoyed our 2025 cybersecurity training, and that you're a little bit safer for having watched it. Thank you very much. Have a great day. God bless. Goodbye.